Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of Talking About DIY Guitar Pedals. Today we're going to talk about how expensive it is to make your own pedals at home. I get this question a lot, is it expensive, especially when I'm making pedals for friends. They say, oh, that must have cost a lot. And in reality, you can often build a pretty good pedal for under $20. All of these costs obviously do not take into account the cost of things like equipment, like your soldering iron, or bits and pieces like solder and tools like wire cutters and stuff like that. I do have a video breaking down some of the tools you need to get started. I'll link that in the description, and I'll link it here or here. I never know where it shows up, so it's going to pop up there. So I'm not breaking down the cost of having to buy tools. That's kind of a sunk cost. I'll be breaking down the cost of the different components that go into DIY guitar pedals, and actually these are the same components that go into professionally made guitar pedals, so you know kind of what you're looking at in terms of the cost to build these pedals. But first, thanks for everybody who's watched the first 3 episodes of this, as well as the last couple episodes where I did kind of more technical analysis on a few things. I broke away from this episode format and did more of a tutorial sort of thing. Thank you for that. Thank you for all the comments. I really like it because I'm always trying to find things to talk about that will interest people. So feel free to comment with questions and I can make videos on it. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. It does help me. It's a small channel and it's nice to get the encouragement, so I keep doing this. But yeah, let's look at the components that go into guitar pedals, whether DIY or otherwise, and I'll give you the cost of those, and then we can kind of do a bit of a breakdown on how much it costs to make some simple pedals. So first, here we have resistors. These are very, very common in all guitar pedals, a lot of electronics. These are usually going for about 1 cent per resistor. You don't buy individual resistors, but you'll buy them in 10, so like this is 10 cents worth of resistors. A lot of guitar pedals will have anywhere between 2 and 20 resistors in them, depending on what the pedal is, depending on the size of the pedal. So you're looking at, honestly, 2 to 20 cents worth of resistors. Not much. Next up, we have capacitors. This is a little ceramic disc capacitor. They also come in different varieties, but this one's pretty common. It's probably hard to see because it's so small, but these go for about 1 to 10 cents per, depending on the capacitor, especially if you're like an electrolytic capacitor or something like that. So yeah, 1 to 10 cents, not a lot. Like resistors, you're probably getting about 2 to 20 capacitors, depending on the actual guitar pedal. So anywhere between 2 cents and maybe a couple bucks on the high end, but that's probably not. You're probably looking at less than about 50 cents worth of capacitors within a guitar pedal. Next up, we have diodes. Diodes don't appear in every single pedal, but in most you'll get them. Diodes are great for distortion and overdrive, and even fuzz to clip signals, but they're also just good for voltage regulation, or not voltage regulation, voltage protection and things like that. So you'll get them in a lot of pedals. You'll usually get anywhere between 1 and 4 diodes in a pedal, and like resistors, diodes cost about 2 to 3 cents each. So even if there's 4, you're looking at what, 12 cents worth of diodes. And I should have said earlier, all of this is in US dollars, of course. After diodes, we get transistors, and this is where things get really expensive. Transistors will go, an expensive transistor might be about $1. It's hard to kind of show the whole thing, obviously, but yeah, an expensive transistor will be about $1. You can often get them for 35 cents or so. And look, depending on the pedal, I've built pedals that have 4, 5, 6 transistors in them. Some have none, some have 1, some have 2. A lot of simpler pedals, you might only have 1 or 2. So you probably have, worst case scenario, $5 worth of transistors in a pedal, but that's for expensive transistors. Often it's really only 30 to 50 cents for a transistor, so there might only be $1 worth of transistors in a guitar pedal. Next up, we have op amps, these little beauties, and both transistors and op amps are used to amplify signals and regulate voltages and change voltages and things like that. These go for about $1 each as well. You'll usually only have 1 or 2, depending on the pedal. Bigger stuff might have 3 or 4, but once again, probably $2 worth of op amps. But just a note on op amps and transistors. They're the ones that give a lot of the great sounds to a lot of the classic pedals. And if you're building older circuits, for example, a tone bender that I've built before, you can't get those transistors anymore. So I actually had to go on eBay and find some new old stock from the Czech Republic, and those transistors ended up costing me about $25 each. So there's $50 worth of transistors. Oh, maybe not 25. Maybe it was $25 for the pair. I can't remember. But all I'm saying is all of these costings, especially for the transistors and the op amps, are based on if you're making circuits with common, easy to find components. If you're going and making obscure circuits with obscure components, obviously that's going to be more expensive. After op amps, we've got potentiometers. These are for your dials or to adjust volume and adjust gain and all that. You probably can't see that I'm turning it, but yeah, potentiometers. These are about 50 cents each. You might have 2 or 3 pots in a pedal build, so what's that? $1.50. From there, things are actually, that's the stuff that goes into the pedal circuit. Then you need to put it in a box. So an enclosure like this, this is actually the most expensive part of the pedal a lot of the time. This was $6. 125B style enclosure. It's a pretty standard size pedal. Yeah, that was $6. So it's often more expensive. The box is more expensive than the actual circuit that you have. This only has resistors on it, but you can count the resistors, and 1 cent each. So what's that? That's maybe 15 cents. Less than that. I don't even think there's 15 on there. 15 cents of resistors on there, and there will be another 15 cents of there might be $2 worth of components, and that's $6. Then you have foot switch. These are how much from my notes? Foot switch about $3. Power jack. These are only 15 cents. And inputs. What's these? You need 2 of those. Those are 87 cents each. So $1.90. Let's call it $2 for that. So you're seeing to actually populate the board is probably $2 or $3. But then to put it into a box, you're what, $6, $9, probably about $10, $11 to put it into a box, which is kind of funny because you need to put it in a box, but that's not actually doing all the work of this. So that's what the cost of all those components are. I get all my components generally from Tata out of Thailand. They do a great job just because they have a good variety of components and they pack things up and ship them quickly. Of course, there are costs of shipping those components. Depending on where you live in the world, it can be anywhere from $10 to $20 maybe. So of course that does add to the cost per pedal. Generally what I do is I'll order enough stuff for maybe 5, maybe 6, depending on how much cash I have, pedals. And the shipping cost is usually about the same, whether I'm ordering 10 cents of resistors or buying $100 worth of enclosures. The shipping cost is usually about $15. Like my last haul came in a box this size. So you can kind of tell how much I'm ordering from that. And I think it was quite a lot, but that's going to keep me busy for months and months at a time. So you can also break down that cost of shipping across a few pedals. So it's not costing you $20 worth of shipping just to build one pedal. It's costing you maybe $3 to $5 worth of shipping per pedal if you're ordering 4 at a time. Of course, I also order in bulk. Like these are 12K resistors, and I just order 20 at a time. Makes it easier. 20, that's 20 cents. Of course, if I'm doing op amps, like I bought a few of these because they're very common. But if I'm ordering a less common op amp and it might be a more expensive op amp, it might be $3, it might be $4, I'm not going to get 10 of them. I'll get 2. Whereas these are $1 op amps that I know I'm probably going to use all the time. So I just bought 5 of them. It really depends. Same with foot switches. Foot switches, they are expensive. They're $3, but it's not like they go off. So sometimes I'll buy quite a few of them depending on what projects I'm doing. So from here, I guess the other thing to talk about is after all those components, you're also talking maybe $1 or $2 worth of other stuff, like a little bit of strip board. Obviously I cut that to size, so something like this is $5 or something, and then you cut it down to size, so there might be 50 cents, $1 worth of strip board. Of course, solder is pretty expensive. This is, it's a silver and tin wire, and you use that to solder. This is expensive. I buy it in bulk because I use a lot of it. And so something like this can be, I can't remember, but it was like $30 or $40. It wasn't cheap. But you can also get these little hobby ones. These are only like $4 or $5. If you don't want to spend a whole lot for a big roll because you're not building a lot, if you're new to it or you just don't have the time to build a lot, why invest in something this big? And you can just get a little hobby one of these. I think, less than $10. I know that much. But let's break down the cost of a few common great beginner pedals. So assuming you're a beginner, you're probably on watching a video about how much does it cost to build DIY guitar pedals. You want to know what you're in for. So I have quite a few beginner guitar pedals on my website. All you need to do is follow the directions. It's pretty easy just to follow, and I show you a bit of strip board and where to put all the components. Pretty easy to do, and obviously there are bigger builds. Like this is a Marshall Governor. This is not a huge build, but it is a little bit bigger. I wouldn't call this a beginner one, but it just shows you that, and you just follow along. You put the components where you want them, where the directions say to put them. So we'll break down the costings for 4 beginner builds that I recommend. And again, like, I know it's kind of weird if you're a beginner and you're not sure whether you want to get in on this hobby, but you can order the components for all 4 of these pedals to save on shipping. If you like it, then you can build 4 pedals and you're great. If you don't like it, maybe you're out a couple bucks or 3 pedals worth of components because you didn't like it. So what I'll do is I'll break down the costing of these 4 pedals. I'll do a boost pedal, a distortion pedal, an overdrive pedal, and a fuzz pedal. So that's 4 different sounds. And as I said, you can order the components for these and see how you go. So first, I'll put on screen the breakdown. First, let's look at the Zvex Super Hard-On or Show. So as you can see here, it's all printed on screen for you. But 5 resistors, so that's about 5 cents. Capacitors, let's call that, there's 3, so let's call that maybe 10 cents. That's an overestimation, but that doesn't really matter. 1 transistor, call that $1. 1 diode, 3 cents. 1 pot, 50 cents. Closure, this is where things get expensive, $6. Input jack to 9-volt power input, 15 cents. Foot switch, $3. And then the other stuff, let's just call that $2. Grand total, that's $14.83. As mentioned, the majority of the cost goes into the closure and offboard wiring components. The stuff to actually build a pedal is less than $2. But I'll put a link in the description to the directions on how to build this pedal. If you're interested, just follow the instructions. Next up, we've got a distortion pedal, the Acapulco Gold. Similar stuff. 2 resistors, that's 2 cents. 6 caps, let's call it 20 cents. Op amps, there's 2 of them, so $2. No transistors here. 1 diode, that's 3 cents. 1 pot, 50 cents. And then once again, you got all your enclosure and offboard wiring stuff, which is where it gets expensive. So in total, that's $15.90 for the pedal, to build that pedal and put it in an enclosure. Next up, let's price out the Love Pedal Champ. This is a great little single knob overdrive pedal. You know the drill, I'll speed this up. All up, that is $14.86. And of course, these are estimates. These aren't, the official. It depends on where you get the components. It depends on, I'm just estimating things. I think, resistors are actually at 1.3 cents a lot of the time, and capacitors have different costs. So yeah, about $14.86 to build the Champ. And then finally, a great little fuzz pedal, the Harmonic Jerkulator. I love this one. It's a good beginner pedal. It's based on the Harmonic Percolator, but you can't get the parts for that anymore. So this is a nice fuzz pedal that's a little bit more interesting than just the previous three that are one knob pedals. This one actually has two. So maybe make this your fourth pedal to build after some practice. But you can see the cost breakdown there for a grand total of $16.30. So what you can see here is that a lot of the price goes into the offboard wiring, offboard stuff like the enclosures and the jacks. Up here now on the screen is a bigger build for an Ibanez Tube Screamer, and that only really comes in at $18. So it's only a few dollars on the circuit, and then the enclosure is where it's coming in. So the Ibanez Tube Screamer is about $18, $2 more than a Harmonic Jerkulator, which is a much smaller circuit. So that's just kind of interesting to look at. Again, it all goes into the offboard stuff. So if you are interested in getting started with building guitar pedals, those are 4 great beginner pedals that you can build at home, and each of them costs, including the enclosures, less than $20 to build. All up for the 4 pedals, you're looking at $61.89 is my cost estimate to build 4 beginner-friendly guitar pedals. Plus, let's go on the high end of $20 for shipping. So what's that? $81.89. Let's call it $80 to build your first 4 guitar pedals. That's $20 per pedal. Of course, I appreciate not everybody just has $80 to spend right now, and it could be frustrating because you can buy $15 worth of components for 1 pedal and then still have to pay that $20 shipping. But yeah, $80 can be a lot for some people, and to spend all at once. But think about it: if you can get hold of $80, spend it on 4 pedals, and if you're not building 1 pedal a day, no one has time for that. You might build 1 pedal a month when you're first starting out, and that's 4 months worth of pedal building joy for $80. I think that is a great investment for a fun hobby. It's actually pretty affordable. So if you are concerned about $80, maybe put $10 a week away or something like that for a few weeks. Save up rather than doing piecemeal. You'll end up spending more money that way, unfortunately. So that's my advice: is buy in bulk and spend that, and then, like any hobby, if you get really into it, maybe you're spending way too much money on it. If anything, you can build a pedal a month for $20 a pedal, which is great. It's a lot cheaper than going to a local Guitar Center or something and spending $200-300 on a guitar pedal. Which kind of begs the question: why are pro-built pedals so expensive? Because I'm ordering all this stuff retail. If I'm getting it retail for 1 cent, what do you think the guys over at Boss or whatever are getting it wholesale? Probably a lot less when they're buying literally thousands and thousands and thousands of these things. So why are we spending $100-200 on guitar pedals? And like, the simple matter of the fact is, bigger companies, they have more overheads. I'm sitting here in my garage, you can see how well I keep up my garage. It's a mess. I have no overheads. This is a hobby. It's the cost of having my house, but that's already getting paid for. This is my hobby. It's not like I have to pay employees and have a factory to do this hobby. So I have no overheads. The only cost is the cost of the components and my own time, which is free. So when you're thinking about professionally built pedals, there are other costs involved. Which is why the cost creeps up to literally hundreds of dollars. And then especially when you're talking about things like boutique pedals from boutique builders, they do them handmade. Bigger companies like Boss or Ibanez or something, that's all built in factories by robots and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of the boutique builders do handmade pedals, and they will spend hours soldering things in, taking their time with it. And obviously their time has to be paid for. And even if you're thinking about it, like if it takes 2 hours on on a low end to build a pedal, what's my math here? You know, it might take 2 hours to build a pedal, and then they sell it for $100. So that's $50 an hour, which might sound great, but then once again they have those overheads that they have to pay for, and so the cost creeps up. And that's really the long and the short of it, because there's costs involved, and that's why professionally built pedals are so expensive. And look, that's their business. That's I think that's fair. But I prefer making them myself because it's fun, and then you also get something really cool at the end of it. But basically, that's the cost of building DIY guitar pedals. I think it's worthwhile. I think it's a fun hobby. As you know, I like to chat about it here, and at the end of this show, I always talk about what I'm working on. I've already shown you I'm working on a little Marshall Governor. Never built one of these before. Yeah, it should be pretty cool. I don't build a lot of distortion. I want to build more distortion. I just built a Rat maybe a month or so ago, and it will be nice to compare this with the Rat. I've also recently built 3 of these. This is the Harmonic Jerk Later clone. The Jerk Chicken Asshole Fuzz. My friends really like them, so I'm building a few of these to give to friends. My wife was kind enough to do the artwork for it. I think it turned out really, really good. So this is for a mate of mine. I already gave one to one mate. This is the second mate, and I'm going to build. I have the artwork, the decals printed for a third one that I'll give to another friend of mine. I'll probably keep churning these out because they're fun. And we did the cost breakdown on this very circuit, $16.30. And my friend says, "Oh, what? How much do I owe you for this?" It's like, "No, just buy me a beer. You're a friend of mine." So that's what I'm working on is just trying to push these out, and meanwhile working on this Governor. And then I also have the parts for, what is it, a Boss Distortion, some sort of Boss Distortion. And then I want to do another easy pedal for beginners, a Damn Meathead. That's going to be an easy distortion circuit just for beginners to play with. I haven't built that one before, and of course I can just get the schematic and put it on the website, but I'd rather build it, tell you what my experience is, and make sure it works properly. If you're trying to learn, if I can't do it, then you can't do it. So yeah, the Meathead's coming. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Staying busy. It's summer down here in Australia, and it's often very hot in the house in the evening. So I sit in the garage where it cools down because I can open the garage door and let a breeze through. So I'm building a lot at the moment, which is great fun. But yeah, thanks. I hope this gets you interested in building guitar pedals. If you've been thinking about it for a while and you're not sure what to jump in on, that's the cost breakdown. Again, I have some videos on the tools and equipment you need. Plenty of resources on the website. I always probably overlink to the resources in the description. But yeah, this is only the 4th video for this series. And I'm going to keep trying to make content here to try to answer some frequently asked questions. If you do have any of those questions and you'd like me to address it in a video, comment, do that like thing, do that subscribe thing, all the stuff that they usually say at the end of YouTube videos. Because look, this is a small channel. I've only been doing this for a couple months now. But it's nice to get the encouragement. Otherwise I feel like I'm just talking to myself in the garage, which, let's face it, I am. So yeah. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.